All right, welcome everybody to our weekly live cast. Last week we had a hiatus, but this week we're going strong. As always, make sure you check out our publications through Amazon, Barnes & Noble online, Lulu, our publisher, for books like Treat or Be Treated, Medical Billing Networks and Processes, and Practicing Profitability. Very, very cool things going on there. And today our guest is Charlie Pritchard, who has been working with practices, coaching practices for going on 5 years now. Is that right, Charlie?
Yeah, just past 4 years, as a matter of fact.
Fantastic. Congrats on that. And I understand that you guys are, in your specific group of practices that you work with, your practices are now slated to pass 1.5 million in monthly revenue. Is that right?
That's right. We passed that this month, in fact, in July.
Absolutely. In July.
Yep.
That's huge. That's huge. And how many practices do you guys work with today?
Me and my team work with over 120 practices right now.
Okay, 120 plus practices, and that's pretty impressive. And you guys are all currently working with one of our products, Vericle, right?
Yes.
And all of your practices work on that technology.
Yep.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So let's start off with something pretty simple. I mean, when you work with your practices, what is the number one thing you find that helps you get the best interaction possible?
The one thing that helps me get the best interaction possible from my providers is very simple, actually. That they know that we care. I mean, if they know that we care about them, they know that we're there to help them. The interaction is wonderful.
Okay.
We want to make sure that they understand that we're there to help them grow their practice, help them increase the revenue, increase the retention, and that our end goal is to make their life easier, not harder, and that we truly want to see their practice succeed.
So it's interesting you bring that up, because oftentimes we talk about the difference between qualitative and quantitative measures of progress and measures of success. And it sounds like what you're saying is that the number one thing that creates positive interaction with a practice or growthful interaction is something that's qualitative, as opposed to something that's necessarily measurable, like collections or no-shows. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. And now, do you find that the quantitative side then supports the qualitative, or do you find that the qualitative is mainly the conversation, the rapport that you build?
No, they go together. So they go hand in hand. So, when we talk about, the things about helping them grow and increasing the revenue and their patient retention and things like that, then by that naturally flows into the other portion of it, which is the, looking at the numbers, the metrics, and measuring that stuff.
Okay. And so with that in mind, I mean, let's start with something really harrowing. I mean,
Sure.
Your absolute worst client rapport experience and how the qualitative played into that. I mean, what is it about the qualitative experience and how important that is? Did it leave you with such a poor experience, without naming names, obviously?
So just to make sure I understand, so you're asking about my worst client experience when it comes to the qualitative part?
Yeah, when it comes to having like great interactions and creating really positive rapport.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what is it exactly? What was the worst possible rapport building experience that you had, and why? Why do you think it happened?
I think a lot of it was, I think, just a miscommunication, if you will.
Okay.
And what I mean by that, and again, I'm not naming names and I'm not pointing fingers, but I think a lot of times, when people come to us and they have a idea of what they want to accomplish. So they say, this is what I want to accomplish. And when we want to try to help them accomplish that, or they have a target that they want to reach, and we want to help them reach that target, we have, within our system, we have a process and we have technology that can help them do that. And sometimes they may come in and for them, it might be something completely contrary to what they're doing or how they're doing something. And so sometimes there's a barrier there that is they want to do things one way. We're trying to help them, and at the it just becomes a miscommunication of we're trying to help them, but sometimes they want to stay one track. Can I say it that way? Like a single track to get there, but we may offer them a couple of different ways to get there. But sometimes they're set in their ways, and it's difficult to overcome that sometimes, and it has led to some bad experiences, quite honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, if you've got a very comfortable way of approaching a problem, if I'm, like you said, if I'm set in my ways, I mean, I've definitely had the experience where I'll, sit down with one of our products, Vericle, and show it to someone. We'll go over the entire thing, soup to nuts, and it won't feel like either what they've used before or paper. And I mean, that it sounds like that's kind of what the biggest issue you find is that people are very comfortable with what they're doing, very feel like that works. They just need a better version of that, as opposed to a different approach entirely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, what do you find turns that experience around? What do you find? Is it the quantitative that helps justify a change in mindset, or is there something before that? Because obviously you're not going to have, huge collection differences without their buy-in. So
Right.
do you find that it's something quantitative that they can measure that creates a shift in that comfort, or do you find that it's something qualitative, something relational?
I think it's a mixture of both, actually. I think as they see the quantitative go up, the qualitative, if you will, it seems to follow with it. So yeah, when they start to see results, because let's face it, I mean, at the end of the day, that's what they want to see. They want to see results. Somebody can like you, they can not like you, but at the end of the day, if their results are getting better, then as a team, we've accomplished what we set out to do. So there's a lot to be said about them seeing the quantitative increase, and that will help the qualitative portion of the relationship.
Now, and I think that speaks to an important point, which is, small measurable improvements or achievements can really speak to the growth of a relationship. Now let's take it down to the very beginning of a relationship. When you're thinking about consulting a practice or coaching a practice for the first time, whether you're a POI coach working with one of our clients like Billing Precision, Billing Dynamics, or Affinity, or any other one, or you're just a standard consultant out there, independent consultant, how do you find you have the most success making that initial shift? I'm set in my ways, I'm comfortable in my ways. How do you find the best way to get someone to make that initial shift, to give it a shot?
What it has to do with is a couple of things. The first thing is understanding their pain. Because when people are coming to us and they're looking for a change, or they're exploring their options, there's a reason for it. And the last thing I want to do is brush over that. So when somebody comes to me, or they're interested in what in one of the products that we have to offer, and I just brush over their the root cause of their pain, I think right away I've already lost them. So the first thing I want to do is understand their pain, and then understand where they're coming from, understand where they want to be, what their expectations are, and then couple that with what our what Vericle has to offer, and show them that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Because a lot of times people come and they're distraught. They've given up. They've at the end of the rope. And I think people, sometimes they're just trying to sell them something, and I want to help them. And so I want to understand their pain points, but I also want to, show them that there is, we have a solution to help them with that pain.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And how do you find yourself avoiding that trap of, I just want a quick fix? The provider or the client that comes to you and says, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I don't want to go through a whole investigation of my pain and my concerns and all that. I want you to figure it out. I want you to fix it and come back to me with results.
So it's a great question, because we do get that. And so what we have to do on the onset is we have to set the expectations up front. Because if there's going to be change, typically there's going to be some pain involved with change. I mean, let's face it, most people don't change because the pain level that they're experiencing now isn't high enough to induce change. So until that pain reaches a level where they want change, they're not going to change. So the way that I avoid the trap of just making something a quick fix is understanding their pain, but also letting them know, look, don't put this in my lap, because I want to help you, and I have a team of people that can help you, and we can work through this together. But it's going to take an investment on your part as well as my part. So it's important to set that expectation up in the beginning that there is no quick fix to this. There's going to be some investment of time. There might even be a little bit more pain involved, but the benefits or the payoff is going to be worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a lot like what you hear from people that you talk to about, the get rich quick approach. The idea that I can just, hand you a check and you're going to turn that into gold for me. And I think the approach here is very similar. Yeah.
Exactly, because again, I want to help them. I want to, coach them. I want to, see their practice grow. But you can't put somebody on a stranded island and a deserted island and say, okay, here, it's yours. You take it and call me when it gets better. That doesn't work, and quite frankly, that's an epic fail approach.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's incredible because there's such a market for it. There's so many people that want the quick fix. They want that diet pill that's going to make them drop 50 pounds. They want, or that's going to, get them to fit into those jeans or something like that. They want that quick thing, when at the end of the day, it's diet and exercise. It's hard work. You have to say no to the jelly donut. And it's kind of like the same thing with what we do with our practices when we consult, when we coach, where somebody says, just go fix it. And you say, well, no, you actually have to commit to using tasks, to using workflow, to getting everything into one solution and all that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. So now when you're setting those expectations, I mean, do you find that there are specific tools or a specific subset of skills that helps you in setting those expectations without kind of creating animosity or creating a negative feeling?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like I said, if we have a common goal, at the end of the day, so if we both agree on a common goal, which is, we want to do a couple of things. Obviously, we want to help grow the practice. We want to make sure that they get paid by the payers. There's certain goals that we have that are common. So when we set the expectations and we say, okay, in order for you to grow your practice, or in order for you to reach this particular dollar amount that you want to get every month, what is that going to entail? How many visits is that going to entail? How much charges do you have to charge out? So we have tools that we can use, in our system that are going to help them see that. I'm thinking of our practice health monitor, where, they can physically see, these expectations, and they can see where they are versus where they want to be at literally, when they log into the system. So these expectations and these common goals are achievable when we understand what the end result is going to be, their common goal at the end.
Okay, and then so once you and I think that's a really great point. I mean, if you get to a point in a conversation where you truly understand what their problem is, their root cause, and you agree on some common goals that are based on that root. What do you find then? What skills in a conversation would you say are the most important when you're talking to a provider that help you kind of get to the next step?
So once I determine what those are, then obviously the next thing is action. What to do next. So the thing that we need to do is we need to encourage the provider to take action, and and to get involved. Him and I say him or her and their staff, and the way that we can do that is we have regular communication with them. Excuse
Mm-hmm.
me. Because again, we can have a common goal, but if there's no communication, then chances are you're never going to reach that goal. So it's important to communicate with each other. It's important to get feedback. It's important to meet, like you said, small measurable goals. So it's important to see progress, incremental progress. So all of these things tie into making sure that they're reaching the big goal, if you will, the audacious goal, if you will, by incrementally getting there. But that takes involvement, and that takes action from the provider to do that, and the staff.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, what do you find actually allows you to get those agreements? I mean, what skills or strategies do you use in a conversation to get those agreements?
Oh, basically, it's very simple. I can use something very simple as an upfront contract, if you will. Just asking them, are you okay with this? Does this make sense to you? Are you do you agree with that? So you can just start with something as simple as an upfront contract, or mirroring the person, or asking them questions. So the thing is to get them involved, and not to you know make it your goal and not their goal. Does that make sense? So
Mm-hmm.
there's the those kind of things that I do to get them involved.
Okay. So it sounds like the most important thing that you're doing is making sure that it's not a one-sided conversation, that it's a collaborative effort.
Oh, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we're going to put a plan together each and every time that we talk, but it's going to be a plan that we agree on. And if it's just a plan that I come up with, or that they come up with, we may not be on the same page. So it's very, very important that, each time that we have a conversation and we get a little bit closer to that goal, that we are on the same page with our plan moving forward.
Okay. And then switching gears just a little
Mhm.
bit, I mean, when we talk about setting expectations, what skills or what things we want to achieve, what milestones we want to achieve when we're setting those expectations, the one thing I'm curious about is then the audience, the key audience when it comes to setting those expectations. When you're talking about a multi-specialty practice, and that's kind of what we want to focus on today.
Mhm.
Do you find that the approach with a multi-specialty or multidisciplinary practice is different when than a single specialty practice like an internal medicine or a chiropractor or a physical therapist? Do you find that there are differences in your audience?
I do. I do find that there's differences in the audience because the needs are different and the goals are different. Quite frankly, with a multidisciplinary practice, things are they can be more complex. They can some of the things that they're dealing with, whether you're talking about something as simple as scheduling or the billing. There's an added layer of complexity when you're dealing with more than one specialty within an office, because now you're adding another layer of complexity on top of it. So when it comes to the multidisciplinary practices, yes, there are differences in setting those expectations, because you're dealing with obviously more than just one specialty.
Now, what specialty specifically do you find mesh really well? I mean, what are you finding is the most common combination of specialties that you're working with today?
The combination that I see very common is I see like a chiropractic, PT, massage, and MD model is very popular, and even adding an acupuncture on there too. So I deal with practices that are, say, chiro, PT, and medical, and I also deal with practices that are chiro, PT, medical, massage therapy, and then chiro, PT, medical doctor, massage, and acupuncture. So, but those seem to be the most common disciplinaries that mesh together real well.
Interesting. And what do you find is makes them mesh so well? Is it a combination of services that you find is so attractive, or is it something just with the personality types?
Actually, I think it's a combination of a couple of things, Reuven. The first thing is this. When you look at what's going on in the world today from a big picture, you look at managed care as a whole, and managed care is the arena itself is set up to minimize expenses while improving the efficiency of the healthcare, right? So when you think about a multidisciplinary practice, they fit that mold very well. Because when you go into these multidisciplinary practices, a patient can potentially receive very comprehensive care, and also they can come into a multidisciplinary office with a lot of different health conditions that can be met or treated with different specialties. And so yeah, it's when you couple that, I think you have the perfect storm, if you will, where they're meeting the flow of the industry, if you will. They're providing a service that's going to meet not just and I don't want to. I just want to say that when they come in and they can be treated with all sorts of different conditions potentially. So there's just a lot of pluses, if you will, and advantages when you look at it from a whole as to why these mesh the way that they do.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like one of the major things, when you look at the industry, one of the things that's happening more and more is the reduction in reimbursements and the increase in malpractice, in insurance costs, the decrease in insurance payments. I mean, the constant renegotiation of reimbursement rates. The last year that California, for example, saw 40% reduction in overall chiropractic reimbursement. I mean, it sounds to me like one of the great advantages as the level of care increases and the expense or the cost is driven down is it allows a practice owner to pull in services that, first of all, help the patient, and secondly, allow them to really just stay in business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, do you know or have an example of a practice or a provider that you're working with that has done this in a really exceptional way, has seen some really exceptional results?
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have practices that I work with a few practices that are multidisciplinary that have really excelled at what they do, and I think it takes a couple of things into account, because when you're talking about a practice that is multidisciplinary, you need to have a staff that is exemplary. In other words, the people that you work with are going to make or break it.
Mm-hmm.
And the practices that I have that are the most successful in terms of the revenue and the retention aspects and even the compliance are those staffs that just they are exemplary. They have a wonderful staff that just meshes and have that common goal in mind. They're all reaching for the common goal, and so these practices that excel are doing that because and some of these I've had the opportunity to go and on site visits and to see it actually in motion, and it's incredible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that speaks to a really important point that, you know, it's all well and good to get the buy-in and the teamwork from the practice owner or the main clinician, but getting the staff, the office manager, the billing department, the front office, um, the the people who are on the ground level, the assistants, you know, um, really getting them completely and 100% on board. I mean, it almost sounds to me like that would be the most important group to get behind the mission, behind the expectation setting, the agreeing on goals and collaborative action. Because if you have the staff behind you, then the owner is more likely to say and be on your team.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, the some and sometimes there's a disconnect there, but yeah, absolutely. When the practice owner and the staff are all on board and they're all moving in the right direction and they all have the common goal that they're trying to achieve, it is a much easier process. And going back to the qualitative and quantitative, that just excels because everybody's on board. They're excited, and when there's excitement, excitement breeds excitement. So
Right.
that's what makes it fun and very enjoyable are those situations actually.
And I mean, I think that's important. I think that's a really great place to stop. Is the understanding and the belief that it really should be fun. I mean, you should really enjoy the process. And if you're not, then, I mean, it really sounds like we should be coming back to setting those expectations, skills, and understanding the skills for setting those expectations, agreeing on common goals and collaborative action, and getting everybody involved. And I mean, I think that's a tremendous thing to take away. So Charlie, thank you.
Mhm.
So just as a recap here, Charlie going on just over 4 years here, just past 1.5 million in client revenues, over 120 practices that he and his team work with, and all Vericle users, and a multidisciplinary focus. So that's very impressive achievement there, and I think it's clear why. I mean, there's a clear understanding of, I think, what it takes to take a practice, into the 21st century here, and actually get the whole team on board. So as a reminder for next week, we're going to have John Murdoch, who is an attorney. We're going to be talking about fraud and HIPAA compliance. So this is going to be really interesting. John is an attorney in New Jersey, so probably some heavy emphasis on New Jersey law when it comes to fraud and HIPAA. But a lot of the stuff is national, so there's going to be a lot of great stuff there. As always, practiceonit.com. Make sure that you check us out there, and you'll see links to just about everybody, including Charlie, and of course to our publications: Treat or Be Treated, Medical Billing Networks and Processes, Practicing Profitability. If you're on our team and you haven't read these 3 books, shame on you. But definitely, if you're a client of ours and you're listening, and you're someone who's looking to be a client, definitely recommended if you want to get into the heads of the people on our team. So everybody, thank you so much, and look forward to seeing everybody next week for our next live cast with John Murdoch.
All right, thank you so much, Reuven.
Take care, Charlie.
All right.